Okay, where was I from the last video? I had finished up this, right? And I was going to continue with the slabs and make it a slab challenge to duplicate this point with some, with the rest of the slabs that or rest of the pieces of the slab that I have. I'll make 3 points if it works out that way. If this breaks on video, I'll leave it and we'll go on to the next one, right? I won't delete the video. This is going to go forward regardless of what happens. The light is on a different side now. It's on this side, and hopefully that's going to be okay. I had to rearrange some stuff back here in the van. Yep, I'm in the van down by the river. Actually, the river is about half a mile down the road, but yeah. Okay, so I brought back the wrought iron percussion flaker. And if you don't know what wrought iron is, someone else explain it to him, please. I don't want to. Okay, so this is a mild steel nail type flaker, Ishi stick. I have one of copper, but it's starting to get very nubby, so I'll use it occasionally till I can take the 10 minutes it takes to dig that piece out, that chip out, and put another one in. I just haven't done it yet. All right. So let's see. On this here, I'm going to lose a bunch of this top part on purpose. I'm just going to nap it off because there's no way I'm going to get the point from this part of it. Okay, so I'm going to be very close to the cortex on this side so I can have this width. And I think I might be able to duplicate that point in this slab. So if you guys are sticklers on needing to know the ratio, like me, I need to know the ratios just for reference, just to get it clear in my head what I'm dealing with. Since you're not working the stone, you need to know what the size is. 12 millimeter, or I don't know, a 32nd shy of half inch. Well, yeah, it's like 12 millimeter thick. And the width on this, I use millimeters because it's so much easier to do the math. 64. Okay. Or 2.5 inches. And this particular item, now I can cheat, right? What I'm going to do is, I'll measure this in a minute. What I'm going to do is, if this becomes too narrow, I'll just narrow down the template piece. This is the template piece. I'll narrow this down to match if I can't get this wide enough, if I can't maintain the width. Yep, that's cheating, but that's what I'm going to do. I can't get it, I'm not going to get it too much more narrow than this without messing it up. It'll look too thick. So don't worry, I'm not going to make a drill out of it, although that would be the easiest. Let's see. There we go. Now that everything's settled back there, I have a box of rocks back there. Here we go. I'll be referring to this point on and off as through the video. Okay, so I'm going to use indirect percussion to knock this down into a biface. See, the cortex is kind of angled that way, so I always work from the, or I'm looking at the worst part of it. I think I still have some room. I may have to make it more narrow. I was kind of kidding that I'm going to cheat, but I may have to make it a little more narrow if I want to make a matched set. Okay. Hornstone slab. Some of you guys have a bunch of this stuff, and everybody else wishes they did. And for you that don't know what Hornstone is, all I can say is you're missing out. Of course, there are other materials that are really good too. So don't try to rush out and cause a shortage of Hornstone. Other materials work well also. Like what? Everybody says Georgetown, which is my second choice. Another good rock, if you can get it, is I like working citronelle gravel that's been heat treated. In some areas that's very common rock, right? So it's not that scarce. It just comes in small nodules. Let me think here. What is other easy to find rock besides obsidian and dacite? Kind of easy to find rock that's good to knap. Burlington, but that needs to be heated. It can be worked raw. There are some people that are swimming in it. There's not much of it available. I don't know why. But it's fairly plentiful, as far as I know. And it does change color when you heat it sometimes, right? There's plenty of novaculite, I think, also needs to be heated. But novaculite can be a pain because sometimes it's very fragile. Let me see, what else? Texas bull gravel, very common stuff. Comes in relatively small nodules. Most of it can be heat treated, but not all of it. Some of it's really nasty. Even after you heat treat it, it's still not cooperative. Because it either gets too fragile or it breaks up and it's unpredictable. Sometimes there's thermal weakness. How should I say? There's areas in it that didn't respond to the thermal alteration that are weak or damaged, but you can't see it from the outside. You have to actually start knapping it, and once in a while you'll see an area inside the stone that didn't heat treat well, and it'll mess you up. That's the Texas bull gravel. The stuff that they sell as quote-unquote primo on eBay is usually gravel, which is not primo. Now, there can be some primo gravel. Yes. So I can't say that all of it's not primo. I don't want to give you that impression. Some of it is really good, but it's unpredictable. I think a lot of the sellers will give you free rock if the rock they send you doesn't measure up, right? If it doesn't knap well, or there's internal flaws, or it's just pretty crappy. The good stuff is only like 1/4 of it. The rest of it was concrete. I think they're pretty good about giving you a replacement or sending you rock that works. A lot of the sellers will do that because they're swimming in the rocks. They have tons of it. They can do it. They can afford to make sure you get something knappable. I haven't really had any issues with people on eBay. I'm trying to think back. I ordered some back when they used to sell exactly what is pictured. A lot of them do sell exactly what they picture, but some of them don't. They just have a photograph of the typical stuff because they don't want to spend time photographing every little piece, which is understandable. It takes forever. But anyway, heat treat changed my knapping experience because I changed like half of the rock that I was using into nice stuff. And I could start making points with a little bit of a sigh of relief that I just now doubled my supply. Because now I can heat treat the bad stuff, and half of it is bad stuff, what I have. It's getting much better. I have friends that are very generous, and I'm starting to branch out and go to more nap-ins, go to more sites, traveling more. I'm not limited like I was before. So now I'm starting to accumulate some nice stuff. And I'm just trying to think, what other nice kinds of rocks do I recommend? I used to recommend Keokuk, heat-treated Keokuk, to new guys. But the quality used to be better, I think. I don't know if the quality's going down or it was just me, but I had a good time with Keokuk in the beginning. It was a little bit too easy to nap, and I was losing a bunch of it, and I was only able to make small points from big chunks, but I don't remember it being highly unpredictable like I've seen these days. Now, it could have been just my luck, right? I got some really good pieces. But anyway, that's why I recommended Keokuk to newbies in the past, but these days, the kind of rock I recommend is Hornstone, dacite, or something cheap. I'm not saying that those two are cheap. If you can get stone locally and it's really poor quality, I don't recommend napping it as a beginner. That's controversial because some guys say if you can nap the bad stuff, you can nap anything. No, it's the other way around. Once you can nap most stuff, then you can nap the bad stuff. You learn on the other stuff, and then you can probably nap the bad stuff as well. If you learn on the bad stuff, you get those habits. That you learn on the difficult material. It's a different mindset when you're working on difficult material. A lot more force involved, a lot more planning involved, because you have to set up these platforms better. The material's not forgiving. It really does require a lot of preparation. You might say, well, that's good, you learn preparation. Yeah, you're learning preparation on that particular type of stone. Some stone does not require as much preparation, if any. And if you prepare edges too well or too strongly on stone that doesn't need to be prepared as strongly, you can end up hitting with too much force and breaking the whole thing in half. I mean, that happens with obsidian. You learn on regular rock and you go to obsidian and it just shatters and breaks and you get these crushed edges because you leave it too weak and then you try to grind it down. You grind it down too much and break the whole thing, or so the tactic of learning on hard material, difficult material, is, in my opinion, not as effective as learning on something easier to nap. Easier meaning more predictable, easier to flake. Not as much force. Something that you would hand to someone that you're trying to teach flint knapping to. You're not going to give a flint knapping student, let's say you had a flint knapping student, or you're tutoring somebody, and they want to learn how to flint knap. You go, okay, here you go. I will be like Chinese master and say, here, chunk of rhyolite, come back to me in a month. Here, 200 pounds of rhyolite. Nap this and see me in a month. Bye-bye. Or I watch you nap this. Hit harder. Hit harder. You can't nap? Not hitting hard enough. You will learn to hit really hard. And put you through some misery before you can touch anything good. You wouldn't do that as a teacher of flint knapping. I mean, that's good for movies. Makes a good movie plot. You would probably try to get a mid-grade material, not too expensive, not too cheap, not too hard to nap, and not too easy. What would be really easy? Like mahogany obsidian is really easy, but it does require some finesse. It will break, snap on you also very easily. So you don't give the new guy mahogany obsidian, and you don't give him rhyolite. You give him something in between. And something hopefully consistent, so you can see that if he's not advancing, he or she, if they're not advancing, it's not because of the stone, it's because the technique is not right yet. I've seen new guys just suffer and suffer with stone that has flaws. And they know it has flaws, but they say it's okay. You know, one of these days I'll get it. Yeah. You can learn it that way. The rock doesn't really care if you learned it the hard way or not. So, you know, the way I would instruct somebody is, here, I got a piece of good stone, like maybe Sonora chert or some mid-grade material like Georgetown, and say, here, try this and see if you can flake on it. And then we'll go from there. And I can see if they're struggling. If I see them struggling, I'll say, okay, you got to change the angle on your workpiece, or you're not hitting the flaker up here, you're hitting it down here, you're losing energy, right? Or there's something weird about the way you're striking at different angles with the mallet, when you should be changing the position of the workpiece instead of changing the mallet position, because you just want the same mallet strike every time. You change the position of the workpiece. That's the easiest way to do it, because then you don't have to think about this part. You got only half your brain is going to work there. But if you're changing this position and this position, then you're starting to get a little bit too complicated, especially for the new guys. Right? Okay. And learn to hit closer to the tip than down here. Some guys are hitting down here. Not very many of you, but you're doing that because you've hit the workpiece one too many times, and you say, no, I'm backing off because I don't want to be hitting the workpiece and breaking it with the mallet. Yeah, I understand it. Okay. This is very long. So, well, it's not that long. All right, I can live with that. Okay, so what I'm doing is I pretty much just got this biface going. It's in the process of being a biface. This is a good stage where I can take a rest and stash it somewhere. You know, you find stashes like this of bifaces that are similar to this. This is a good place to stop and then come back to later, because the mindset is different now. After you reach this stage, the mindset for the continuing is different than the stage leading up to this. Okay? It's a biface now. It's got some of the original surface, but I ignore that because it's going to go away anyway. Just because, you know, it's still too thick. In the process of thinning it down, that'll go away. Okay. So now I can switch tools. I can start pressure flaking on it. I can do a bunch of stuff that pertains to this particular stage. Now, when I show people, like I teach my kids, where I was teaching them how to do this, I would hand them bifaces for them to work on, so they can see these little jaggedy edges like this, so they can prepare platforms and learn that early on. I would have them work on bifaces or brokes that I would discard. I don't think any of them were working on nodules to begin with and breaking them down into spalls and then bifacing the spalls. I think they were all working on minimally modified spalls and then actual bifaces, now that I think about it. So I would start someone off on a biface, a new guy, with fairly mid-grade material, and watch the technique. The technique is some of the hardest stuff to fix. As you can tell someone, you need to hold this back further, hit a little closer, and then wind up and put more velocity on it. Some guys just don't pick up on it. They're not doing it. They'll still hit back here. They're choked up too much on it, so the velocity is low. And they'll insist on not putting too much velocity because they think they're going to break it. Yeah, you might break it, but that's the thing. When we nap, most nappers are right on the edge of breaking it. And experienced guys know this, but they get used to it. They get acclimated to working on the edge, like, you know, walking out near the edge of a cliff or at the edge of a building when you're working on it. After a while, you get acclimated. You're not afraid. So I work right on the edge of breaking my stuff, but I'm not afraid because, you know, I know pretty much when it's going to break. New guys, you just have to be bold and not be hesitant. Yeah, some of you say, well, as soon as I do that, it breaks. So no, I can't do it that way. As soon as I do that, as soon as I start getting bold, it'll break like the next hit. Well, are you able to learn from the break? How do you know that you will break it on the next hit? Are you actually aware of the limits of the stone? I mean, if you are, then work right up to the limit. I mean, get right there. Get right up next to the limit. If you know the limit, you know when you're going to break it. That's a good thing. Start working right at that edge. Work right on the edge. What did I do here? Yeah, I overshot it, but let's see. Okay. See, I didn't think I was going to overshoot it, but I'm working right on the edge of what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm taking risks. That wasn't too bad. I still have some width. So I managed that risk. I knew there was risk, but it was still wide enough that even if it did that, it wouldn't matter too much. It stinks because then, you know, it doesn't allow me much mass to thin the other side. It thinned this side, but then, you know, I don't have much mass here to thin the other side. I mean, the edge is turned a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I grind it down and the edge is already turned that way. But you need some mass there so you can use that mass, blow it away, send flakes in. Now if I send flakes in, I'm going to lose some of that, which isn't too bad because I'm on a thin point trajectory, but you get the idea. All right. Okay, I got to get serious now. It's getting close to the time where I need to plan these strikes so that they do a good job of thinning. Still opportunistic flaking. And I got a request to show the angle of how I strike. I can do that, right? But this is the thing. If I show you the angle like this and then show you that I would hit like that, this could be wrong. I really don't know the angle. All I know is it's very, very similar to pressure flaking, except you're using a mallet to drive the force instead of pressure. To make a long story short, it's the same everything as pressure. Just pretend you had a great big old honking pressure flaker. You know, I don't know what, I don't have a big pressure flaker, but just pretend the indirect percussion striker is a pressure flaker, and how would you hold it to push off a flake, a big old flake like this? How would you hold it? All right, you'd hold it just like this, right, and you'd push. All right, that is the exact same angle as the percussion strike. Whatever the pressure angle is, that's the same as the percussion angle. And if you're able to match it and you hit and you don't get the result you want, change it ever so slightly. Maybe there's a slight difference. Maybe. Okay? It's the same angle as the pressure flake. If you want a short flake, it's downward force. If you want a long flake, it's inward force. If you want something in between, it's in between. There might be a slight difference in angle here, but I can't detect very much difference between indirect percussion strikes and pressure flake pressure angles. The percussion force angle and the pressure angles, to me, I have a very difficult time explaining or noticing any difference. The forces are different, the follow-throughs are different, the initial conditions are different, like the platforms may be different, the tips may be different, but the angles of applied force, the way you hold the piece, is going to be the same until I can figure out if that's wrong. For now, I'm going to say it's the same because I can't figure out an example where that doesn't apply. Okay. Let's see. I need to drive a flake across. Here we go. Yeah. I lost power on that strike somehow. Let's see. I think it's because of the crushed platform. That platform didn't go anywhere. I mean, it didn't take the flake anywhere. Where's my pad? Okay. I got to get another pad here. All right. See, when I hit that, I have an incipient crack in there now. I got some weird stuff going on. Yeah, it's incipient cracking, so I got to move down to this side and try to hit that flake in. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to see if I can pop that flake out that didn't release all the way. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Switch up the pressure flaker because I need to get in closer. I feel like I'm way out in outer space when I'm back here pushing on it with a longer tip. Yeah, that flake is it's in there. That incipient crack is in there, but I'm not going to push too hard on this because the edge is really delicate right now. I got to work around that Okay. We'll do it on the next segment.